Ladies and gents, today we find ourselves in the 5 hole. I'm more than happy with either Gibbs or Jefferson. Really don't think I have too hard of a leaning either way. I think Detroit will definitely be the better offense. Gibbs, even if he doesn't take like any sort of goal line work, I mean, if we can take Lamb, I'm going to do that over Gibbs, to be quite honest. Even if Gibbs doesn't like take over any goal line stuff from Montgomery, I mean, he's still going to be just insane. Receiving work, even in a half-point PPR format, is a target is worth a lot more than a touch, or I guess a handoff. Touch can include targets or receptions, I guess. Either way, Gibbs is going to be fantastic. He's really only upside to me. Yeah, just keep it at that. Detroit's going to be good. He's going to be getting targets out of the running back position. He's one of the safest you're going to find. So we'll see what we get at our next pick. Hopefully start building out a pretty lean, mean roster here in the sprint. You see me queued up with some LA players. That's going to be for pick 29, mainly because I think the LA offense is a little underappreciated right now. Obviously, there is some risk with Stafford's back issue. Hopefully it doesn't come too bad for us. A.J. Brown is tempting, but I said it on stream the other day. I don't do many hero RB builds, so we do have an opportunity to maybe get a little wonky here. Gibbs into Chase Brown. Chase Brown again. Someone that early in the offseason I was not a massive fan of, but I'm not fully on board, but I'm on board enough to get some slight shares of him. My main thing is I think I was a little stuck in my ways, hard to adjust to the idea that a late round running back like Chase Brown isn't going to be replaced. The other issue being Cincinnati's defense isn't good enough for Chase Brown to really get like extremely high rushing volume, but he's going to be a feature back for this offense. The running backs behind him don't seem to be a massive threat to me in the slightest. It also does help over the sprint that Cincinnati does have 3, at least we expect, high point total games coming up. Interesting here that we could go Higgins, maybe set up for a Burrow play. It's tempting. Granted that we have the Cincinnati outlet with Chase Brown, Lamar is also open. Yeah, I'm going to take Lamar or Higgins here over Adams. The main benefit of Adams was that he did have one game with Gibbs. But I'm a big fan of Lamar this year. I do think you should never be betting on injuries. But I'm a little bit worried about both Derrick Henry, more so Henry than Saquon, especially given his age, that Henry might miss a couple of games this year. Even if he doesn't, Lamar is just a great quarterback. I mean, he was in the MVP conversation last year. He'll be likely in the MVP conversation again this year. Lamar's just good. Like, having an elite quarterback like Lamar for this 3-game stretch feels just so good to me. Not only like Lamar can not only get you to advance, get you to this 3-round playoff, but he can also just fucking win it for you. He's also very easy to get into New England and Green Bay in their wide receiver rooms later. It's easy to get shares of Flowers, Andrews, Likely, whatever you want. You can find your way into all 3. Baltimore, New England, and Green Bay. You can find your way into those easily later in the draft, and we already have our Cincinnati bring back 415, which is another reason why I really like Lamar in this sprint format. So 6 picks away. This will be a very short break, but I will start queuing up some of those teams while we wait for 5 picks. I'm not going to overthink things here. Pickens is tempting, but I really love Xavier Worthy. Rashee Rice, I would be very surprised if we get to the point where Rashee Rice just sees no suspension this year. If they delay it again, the whole world's going to come tumbling down trying to claim that the NFL is, protecting the Chiefs again. It would be very difficult for me to see him not being suspended, especially after it was delayed from last year. The reality is that the suspension getting pushed to mid-season is quite poor for fantasy purposes. It puts you into a much worse range for bye week support when you're taking Rashee Rice. The thing that I did like with Worthy initially was that the beginning of the season might open up a larger role with Rice out. You no longer have that. But the thing with Worthy is I'm confident he'll have an increased role this year. They showcased last year that they want to get him the ball in a variety of formats. I do think that while Kelsey isn't going to fall off, I think he does have a fair bit of value in these drafts, actually, because he's still going to be a fairly, he doesn't have the consistency that he has anymore, or that he used to have, that made him that elite tight end 1, but he still has a great amount of boom-bust potential. He can still drop 20 points on you in a given week if it just happens to be a Kelsey week, but I do think we'll continue to see gradual decline from Kelsey. I don't expect a massive resurgence, and I think that will be to the benefit of Worthy, as well as the Rashee Rice suspension being to the benefit of Worthy. We are going to take Zay Flowers here just to get our initial line for the Lamar stack. Feel pretty good about that. Means that we don't have to rely too much on getting like Andrews, Likely, or Bateman later, and we can use those picks to target these other teams that we want to game stack with Baltimore in. See you at those next picks. I've championed Jerry Jeudy a fair bit on these drafts. Both these teams are so just piss poor, though. Oh, somehow I managed to take Stephon Diggs off the thing, so that's an easy decision there. We'll just take Diggs. Glad I caught that before I picked. Diggs is an easy pick. That's a key wide receiver for the Patriots, gets a game stack with Baltimore. We take that, and then we hope to get Golden at this next pick. All right, sweet, and we get Golden. Easy selection there, gets our Green Bay. I personally like Jaden Reed more, but I have to admit at some point that Golden certainly has value in best ball. I worry that he's just going to take a Christian Watson role in this offense, and a lot of key targets will still be ceded to Reed. Reed's injury, though, obviously opens up a greater path for Golden. The injury to Jordan Love does not worry me too much at all. The reality is it's a non-throwing hand injury. It shouldn't impact his passing ability by any means. Maybe it impacts his handoffs, but it's not too much of a concern when we're taking Golden. And Reed's injury shouldn't linger to the season, but we've seen Jaden Reed be an up-and-down player. If somehow Golden overtakes him, becomes their featured player after being taken in round one, at some point I do have to accept that. I may be wrong about the player, maybe wrong about the role. Part of doing high-volume best ball is getting a little bit of shares of players that you don't even really love too much, especially when they fit well into your current lineup. ADP is usually pretty sharp, so could be seeing something that I'm not. Either way, Golden, great pick. Would be very happy with Andrews at this pick. Again, Likely's injury is not going to be a season-long endeavor. I don't think it's a high re-aggravation risk. Did need surgery, but it was a simple surgery. Should be back, I'd assume, by week 2-3. Maybe he faces a little bit of ramp-up. I don't think it's too serious, but I do think that Andrews can use that time to reestablish himself as one of Lamar's favorite targets. I think a lot of this, ADP decrease on Andrews just comes from that one drop in the playoffs. I still think Andrews is a great player, and I want to stack up into Lamar's receiving options as much as possible. More than happy to take him. And at this range, you really only be taking tight ends that you perceive to have that top tight end value. Before the bad, massive drop for Andrews, he was, reclaiming his status as an elite tight end after a very poor opening to the season. My hope is that we see a lot more of that second half than that first half this year. And Andrews is certainly a player that if we do see that second half, has top 5 tight end potential. All right, with 2 quarterbacks off the board, I am going to do something a little bit wonky here, simply because New England's easier to get into later, and we may want to take Ramondre at the next pick. We're just going to take May. Admittedly, a reach of about 12 picks. I believe the clear and apparent drop-off in EV, significantly, is 12 or 13 picks, so we're really getting close there with May. Despite that clear and apparent EV drop, expected value drop, none of these players on the board fit too well into what we want to do. I'm personally not that big of a Travis Etienne fan. Dobbins does make a little bit of sense if this were best ball and we were hyper-fixated on 17 for the Worthy game. Granted, he does have the Green Bay game as well, so I can hold the L there a little bit on Dobbins. But I think after going Gibbs, Chase Brown, I'd rather take the Drake May upside of him being a vastly improved quarterback, a quarterback that we know we want to play into, given we already have Diggs and his receiving options are fairly easy to get into. There's a lot of upside about this offense kind of improving this year. Year 2 for Drake May, some added weapons with Diggs. The reality is I liked some players at this next pick just as much as the ones that I liked at this pick, and I wanted to guarantee we got May. In some of these drafts, you can end up seeing quarterbacks go where you don't expect. I wanted to get the Drake May stack here, and now we can cut off quarterback. We don't need any more quarterbacks. We can get some receiving options for both of our quarterbacks at these other points in the draft, and then fill out our running back and tight end rooms a little bit later. And we immediately see one of those options with Bateman. Admittedly, Bateman can be difficult in my eyes a little bit. He will be our 5th wide receiver. This doesn't preclude us from taking New England players later. The reality is, though, if I'm taking Lamar at pick 29, he needs to throw for a good amount of touchdowns. If he's throwing for a lot of touchdowns, Bateman should provide value for us throughout the season, even though he is kind of a boom-bust option to me. I don't think he's going to take a very clear-cut, high-volume role in this offense this year. But given our investment into Lamar, it makes sense to still take him. Ramondre Stevenson, I do think, has a fair bit of value. There's a chance that we get him at 125. I'd be fine with that. Just goes off the board. That's fine. I'm not going to be taking Jordan Love. I don't want to reach on Kyle Williams here, so it will be an up-in-the-air pick. Out of curiosity, where did Judkins go? I didn't even see him go off the board. In my opinion, you should still be trying to be a little bit greedy with Judkins at this point of the year. We can go Mims. We have 2 games for it. Allows us to only take 1 more New England player later. I do need to figure out this running back room, but I'm going to take advantage of having invested 2 high draft picks in running back and just get some more wide receiver depth at this point. All right, we will go Trey Benson here. High value handcuff. A lot of coach speak saying that he's going to be getting more work this year. That's not really what I'm buying into. I'm just buying into the fact that he's a premium handcuff on a good offense. We've seen the value that James Conner has had when given that featured role. I think Benson would take a fairly featured role if Conner were to miss time, which we have seen before. Not over the past couple seasons, but in his history, he has been at least slightly injury prone. At this next pick, I think Jadon Blue or, Rashad White's fine. I do think Algier would be better now that we have an Arizona and we actually forgot we don't have any LA. We have nothing for Blue though, and I didn't even know he wasn't practicing. Oh, the bone bruise, damn. All right, yeah. Rookie missing time is not something I want to invest into. Kyle Williams is fine. I honestly do prefer Demario Douglas, and we also have Hunter Henry to target at the next pick. This is a range where we will see a fair amount of New England go off the board, so we do want to get some more at some point. But I'm not jumping on Kyle Williams, to be honest. We'll take Algier. We need some more running back depth. Algier's another premium handcuff. Honestly, Rashad White probably has some better standalone value, but without any games for him to play into, I'm just going to take Algier. Even though I still have Likely queued, we're not going to go Isaiah Likely here. They just have to bite the bullet on Eckler. Eckler will be, said it before, one of the players that is not going to win you this sprint, but he gives you a decent opportunity to make it to the 3-round playoff. He's not flashy, not very exciting, but his receiving role means that in any given week, you'll have a little bit of a decent RB2 floor. I really don't see his role being overtaken by Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. I honestly don't know if I'm pronouncing that last name right. Regardless, I believe Eckler's consistent receiving volume will give him value for a lot of rosters, especially when we only need him as an RB3 for a couple of fill-in weeks. Sorry about that. I was overclocking mentally to figure out the best route for tight end. Gesicki still being out of practice worries me a little bit. I haven't done too much research into his injury, severity, re-aggravation risk. Just haven't seen too much on it yet, but it is a concern. The main concern for me was, given I'm only going to want to go 2 tight end, I believe, on this roster, I'd rather just have someone more consistent behind him, which should be Otten. We do have the 1 game with Atlanta after taking Algier. It's also just the factor both Tampa Bay and Cincinnati will throw the ball at a decently high clip. Let me just take the tight end in a similar range. That's healthier right now. Also didn't really want to take either a running back or wide receiver in that range because there are some very late options I still like a fair bit, especially Justice Hill. Keaton Mitchell, I really don't understand why his ADP would be higher than Hill's. He certainly has the talent, but I don't know. You're going to need a Derrick Henry injury, which I said with Lamar earlier is not something I'm betting on for Lamar's value. It's just an added bonus of his age and volume factoring in. Roschon Johnson would be fine at this pick. I do think I prefer to go Hill. We can obviously take a deep target throw here. I'm going to get wonky. I'm going to just take my reaches and be happy with them. Hill is a player I want. At this stage of the draft, I don't care about reaches, especially considering the players that I have on my board are all very deep players. The one thing I am considering a fair bit is the value of Christian Watson in this. See, if he actually does return week 5, I doubt that, you could get some pretty good boom-bust value for him. I do think I am going to take the ceiling play and take Watson with the last pick. We'll take Arroyo. Arroyo is the ceiling play. He doesn't have any fucking matchups for us, but I do like Arroyo. I think he has the highest ceiling out of the tight ends left on this board. And to be quite honest, while I am positive regarding Lamar, I worry about Andrews a little bit. A little tiny bit. I also don't know that 8 wide receivers is the best play for this roster. Worthy, Flowers, Diggs, Golden, Bateman, Mims, I feel like that's pretty solid, even if we do have our last wide receiver being fairly on the shelf for most of the year. But we will take Watson to close out this draft. Definitely a high ceiling play. Our wide receiver room will be the defining factor for this team. Fairly confident that the running back and tight end rooms can get it done. Quarterback, Lamar and May, I'm more than content with. It's more so a question of whether these I'll say these top 4 can perform well enough to not need too much out of Bateman, Mims, and hold on long enough until Christian Watson returns and gives us another boom bust receiving option that further stacks into that 17 game with Baltimore and Green Bay. But that's the ceiling play you got to make sometimes, especially in these underdog drafts, particularly more so in BBM than this sprint. But I do think aiming to come in first in the sprint should still be your mentality. It's a similar thing even with the smaller contests than BBM. You want to aim for the top. You don't want to aim to min cash in these contests. And I think Watson gives us that opportunity. But that's it for this draft. Appreciate you watching. Hope to see you again tomorrow. Till then, draft safe. Be well. Peace.